Good evening, all, and welcome to episode 18 of Ferg's Footy Fanfare, the Brendan Goddard of episodes. The Alex Rance, I suppose, be a pretty overrated player at the best of times, wasn't he, Ned?
Oh, no, he's a pretty good player. Didn't do well up forward, but rectified his way down back and became quite a sole contributor to the Richmond Football Club. Probably not of now, but
No,
go
to his
back a few
credit,
years.
that's it. He was very good in the back line. He was immense for them, and it's good to see that he's taken his faith elsewhere since he's left with the whole, I wouldn't call it scandal, perhaps just rumours spreading across that he's become a J-dub, but not too.
What a
not
J-dub.
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witness. He's always been a Jehovah's Witness.
Well,
he's always been one.
He's just put a bit more attention into his faith these days, and wasn't that when he first left, like one of the reasons he left, to go and spend more time on his faith and dedicate himself to it?
No, before his last contract signing, he was contemplating retirement to focus on his faith as well, which I think would have been about 2015, 2016. Yeah, he was thinking about retiring and focusing more on life after football and, being able to practice his faith a lot more. Each to their own, but
that's it. Yeah. Well, no, it's no better way to get the episode started than with a cheeky segue. But in the bigger news in the AFL scheme, we're through to the preliminary finals now, 2 monster games. You'd probably say that heading into the final series, you'd expect these 4 teams to be battling it out in preliminary finals. So now it's all set out. And look, at the end of the day, you've got, is it first versus fourth and second versus third, is it? I think It is. So look at pretty much exactly what you're expecting. So, wait, is it?
Yeah. Wait, first versus third.
Yeah. Second versus fourth. Yeah, I was going to say it has to be the same as first week of finals. But so what we'll do is we'll have a look at the games last week. I know from your perspective, obviously, there's a bit to talk about in one of the games in particular, and then we'll review the upcoming games. Once again, we've made sure to record this on a Thursday evening, so the teams for tomorrow's game between Port Adelaide and Richmond are out. But firstly, we'll go back to last Friday night, and we had your mob get it done quite convincingly over my mob, 31-point winners. How did you find the game, Ned?
Yeah, I honestly thought Richmond were pretty well dead in control the whole game. I thought with that Butler goal at the end, which I will say, yes, was there. But if he hadn't kicked that goal, I think St Kilda would have been on the chopping board at quarter time, really. Richmond came out and played a really good first quarter. And I think St Kilda were able to claw their way back into the game, to their credit, and probably a bit more accuracy would have probably seen them, really make it a tight game and make Richmond really have to earn it. But Richmond were just sort of always in that comfortable, 5-3 goal buffer margin where they were never sort of really phased. They were just always in control of the game.
Yeah, you've put it well. I would describe it in a similar pattern. I thought that just the way Richmond went about it, the word that first came to my mind is professional, professional, experienced. You could tell that Richmond had been there plenty of times before, and just their execution in the first quarter really set them up for a win. So, and then on the other side, you had St Kilda, a bit slow at the start, made sure, their defense was under pressure, and that was because their midfield didn't rock up to start the game. And then when they started to claw some momentum back, they weren't able to convert. I know that they missed quite a few set shots from a reasonable position. And when you're playing against Richmond in the kind of form that they were in last week, you just need to make the most of those opportunities.
I thought St Kilda's pressure was down a bit as well. I thought the way that Richmond were able to manoeuvre the way out of St Kilda's forward half and go forward was bit too easy, I think.
Yeah.
And I think you'd say the same from a St Kilda's perspective, that, Richmond was sort of able to just waltz out of defence and, really hit a target on the wing, whether it was Lynch or Rewalt.
Yeah, you've just reminded me something that I wanted to bring up about St Kilda's game style throughout that game. I noticed a lot when you had the inside contested ball. St Kilda didn't really put pressure on the man, but rather, aimed at like zoning around them. So whoever the ball carrier was, whether that was Edwards, Hooley, they had field days, but they were trying to block off the targets to them. And when you give excellent players like that too much time, they're still going to be able to use the ball well. And I think that, they just gave the ball carrier too much time and really didn't put enough pressure on them to, have a quick kick out of their area or out of the 50. Liam Baker was very important early on for them, as well as Shai Bolton. So it was good to see that, not just your regulars, but also the younger guys, guys have had really big seasons of, starting to stand up at the most important time of the season.
I noticed one thing watching a replay was Richmond utilising Dustin Martin around the ground. So say there'd be a stoppage, say, towards the centre of the ground, or, between the centre of the ground and Richmond's 50-metre line, that Dustin Martin would go half forward, but creep up towards the contest and sort of suck his man being the half back, I think a few times being Hunter Clark from memory, and sort of creating that mindset in the defender's mind that, okay, I'm going to have to play on him now. He's playing midfield. So say if St Kilda were to win the ball and go forward, that St Kilda player would actually follow the movement of the ball and follow the play, where Martin would stay forward, being that he's playing half forward, like a high half forward. And if Richmond were able to win the ball in the turnover, which they generally do in defence because they're a very good turnover side, that they create an overlap.
Yeah, well, he was obviously able to have a lot of possession of the ball. And it looked I haven't obviously watched it again, but it did look that he spent a lot more time in the midfield than he had been throughout the season. Not necessarily inside, but definitely, making sure he was one of those available targets when the ball was able to work its way out. I think he had the most meters gained for maybe in the whole game, actually. Let me just see.
I think so,
He did, yeah. He had 597 meters gained. Next best was Jaden Short of 495. 6 clearances as well. So he was just making sure that he was an option once that contested ball got out, I thought. And you could really notice that as well. And like you said, St Kilda not putting enough pressure on Dustin Martin. And when you do that with, arguably the best player over the last 5-10 years, then, you're already on the back foot.
Yeah. So I think you can now put to bed that Dusty doesn't kill St Kilda now, mate.
Oh, geez. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not too sure, I'd reckon that there was, I think from memory, there's probably been 2 performances where I can say that Dustin's killed St Kilda. I'll say last game of 2017, where we went to the G, I thought Dusty put on a clinic that game, and I thought Dusty was quite good. Probably wasn't as big of an impact, but I thought that, yeah. Geez, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if "killed's" the right word. In all honesty, now I think that's definitely one of the better games he's had against.
Statistically wise, I think. Well, maybe impact-wise, I think impact-wise, Shai Bolton probably did a better job. But statistically, I think Shai Bolton.
I think if you look statistically and impact-wise, I can name 3 players better off bat. I reckon that
Bachar
Hooley, I reckon Shane Edwards played better and was more damaging. And I reckon you could put a question mark over Shai Bolton. And I think that you could put a question mark over Tom Lynch as well. If he had kicked straight, then all of a sudden...
He was probably nearly best on ground.
Yeah, he played a very, very good game. 17 touches, 2 goals, 5. And that could have easily have been 5 goals. Missed a few easy ones towards the back end of the game. So, although I absolutely agree that Dustin Martin played a very good game, I would think that killing us is probably a bit of a stretch. It's like saying bloody Jack Billings killing you.
I've got some news for you as well that I know we're rambling on a bit, but apparently St Kilda are interested in Jack Higgins.
I did hear that.
So I think maybe a Jack for Jack.
You want Loney or
I'd be happy with Billings. I think Loney's better than Billings.
ah, jeez, not
I
unless we
think
get
I think
not. How about we trade? We'll go double Jack. So you can have Jack Billings and Jack Loney, and I want Jack Graham and Jack. Who's the other one? Higgins.
Oh, you can have Jack Higgins. You can have Jack Higgins.
No, but I want Jack Graham as well.
No, you're not having Jack Graham. You're not
Well,
having
then
Jack Graham.
there's no way you're having Jack Billings. So we've reached the stalemate.
I think Loney's quite more potent than Billings, in my opinion.
Up 40 is, yeah. See, that's
Yeah, I
something
think-
that I noticed throughout the game as well. Now we definitely are rambling on, but they had Jack Billings playing in the midfield and the back line. You know, I think that St Kilda was doing that. And this is, you know, just my thought on it all. But they were doing that at the start of the year, and Billings was getting his usual 25, you know, at 80%, being, you know, really effective with the ball. But then the media attention started to go towards, oh, we're not exercising Bradley Hill as well as we should be. You know, he's not getting enough of the pill. People aren't looking out for him. And then I think in the mid-season, they've made a very focal point to switch them around. So Billings has gone forward, whereas they've got Brad Hill to do that, stay in defense and, you know, try and work it out of the back line. But I think that Brad Hill for his first season has had a bit of an underwhelming year.
Yeah, talking about Brad Hill, I thought he wasn't that great on last Friday, but his numbers were a bit down on what he was at Fremantle. But I think you got to think that he's probably coming to St Kilda more of a role player, where I think at Fremantle he was quite a decent player in a not very handy side.
Mm-hmm.
Is the pay packet worth it for Hill? In my opinion, probably not. I think he's probably about 100,000, 150,000 overpaid, in my opinion. But, you know, Brad Hill asking for how much he was, and I mean, it's not a dumb price if there's someone dumb enough to pay it.
That's it. I think this is probably a good, well, it's a lead into a segue because, you know, you asked me this question throughout the week, and there has been a bit of talk about over whether Jordan De Goey, Collingwood, is worth the 900,000 that he's asking for, I believe.
I think it was initially a mil. I think it was a mil.
Right. I've heard the number 900,000 thrown over a couple of times. So
yeah,
do you think that he is worth $900,000?
Honestly, no. I don't think so, just because of his inconsistency. Obviously he's had a few off-field dramas, but that can be easily fixed. But I just think that he's a bit too inconsistent. Like, yeah, he can win you a game, kick a couple of, you know, play a few games where he kicks 5 or 4 goals. But I think you're better off investing in a player that, you know, say if you're going to get a forward, like for example, Jeremy Cameron, they could probably kick you 2 or 3 goals a game and have your occasional, half a dozen or whatever. I think for mine, if you're gonna pay big money for a player, you want them to be consistent. That's what I've thought with the Lynch deal. I think the Lynch deal hasn't been that dumb. I don't think Lynch is probably the best key forward in the game, but we paid a big price for him, and he, you know, he's generally a 2-goal, 3-goal a game player generally. Yeah. And at worst, he kicks a goal. Like, he barely ever goes goalless, where I think Jordan De Goey can sometimes really go missing, and he's obviously had his injury troubles as well.
Do you think that has something to do with the team that he's at, though? We know that Collingwood, when they're not playing their best football, is, you know, susceptible to really struggling to score and get the ball into their forward half and get that contested mark. So do you think if he, you know, was able to reap the rewards at somewhere like a Richmond or a Brisbane, he might, you know, be worth that?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously as a forward, you know, supply is a big factor. If you're not getting, you know, if the ball's not going forward, you're not going to kick goals. You're not going to get the ball inside 50. So there is always that debate, and that's always the debate about Dunstall and Lockett. You know, how Dunstall always just get fed the ball, whereas Lockett probably had to earn it a bit more. and like other players as well. But yeah, in my opinion, supply is key. He probably could be a good player if he goes to a team with supply, but teams that are after him like Carlton. Is it Carl? I think Carlton's really the only one that's really standing out. Maybe Essendon. I can't remember if Essendon, but I think he'll stay. In my opinion, I can't see him going anywhere else. If he's going to go anywhere else, he's only going to go somewhere better, and I don't think anywhere better has the salary cap.
Yeah. No, I think that's put pretty well. So we'll lead into the second semi-final between Geelong and Collingwood. And
we haven't even launched into the Richmond Port game, really.
Oh, did you want to?
I don't. We'll do the second semi, and then we'll talk about the bigger game.
Yeah. So
the second prelim.
We had Geelong and Collingwood give an absolute. Geelong taught them a lesson. I don't think they kicked their second goal till about a third of the way through the last quarter. I'm not too sure if you watched it, but
I watched bits and pieces, and I watched bits and pieces of replay. Geelong just did it too easy. Ablett could have easily kicked the first two goals, and he gave them off. I think Collingwood. So from my analysis from that game from Collingwood, they were spent. I reckon they played their grand final last week. And also, I think they thought that it might just sort of come to them or sort of just happen. Like they'd somehow find their way into the game without really having to fully work their way into it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I think that it was a really good illustration to show Geelong, who I think played their best football. I don't think that they can play any better than they did on Saturday. And I don't think Collingwood could play any worse than they did on Saturday night as well. So, and Collingwood would be disappointed with that, considering how well they played and, all the hurdles, both inside their, inside the footy field and outside, that they had to do to get over West Coast last week. They'd be really disappointed. And I think you're spot on when you said they played their grand final last week. But I heard a really good analogy throughout the week, and it's, it's like cricket. You need to go every time you go out to bat, you need to act as if, it's the first ball again. You don't just go out and start, start smashing sixes in a 5-day test match and all that. So
runs on the board are good though, mate. It's always good to have the runs on the board.
Some people, yeah, sure.
Sixes and fours increases your scores.
No, you got 5 days to do that. Anyway, I'm not getting stuck into that because we'll be here all night. It's a pretty contentious topic between the two of us.
Also, are we going to do a cricket program as well?
Off season. I was thinking about that. I was trying to keep it behind closed doors, but there is a potential we should probably swing it into the cricket over the summer months. So I think got to keep the listeners entertained.
Even though cricket's probably not as much more popular as AFL. I know Tyler Buchanan, he really gets up and about around around the Test series. He's an he loves cricket season. He loves his cricket.
Yeah, I know that we've got a few listeners that would be more than happy to, chime in. We've got the Sheffield Shield starting this week as well, which has seen some awesome games already. I'm not sure if you saw the photos between Queensland and Tasmania.
Oh, was that when they were all when they were all around, like pretty much all in, right in close, and there was that bold. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that's it. No, it's just good energies at times. We'll go back to the footy.
Yeah. Football season. Let's keep it footy related.
That's it. All right. So Geelong did the job easy. They got, although Ablett didn't touch the ball, I think he only had 3 possessions or something, 3 very valuable posies and did a lot of work around the ground. They had Hawkins 4, Dangerfield 4, Duncan 30 possessions.
Dangerfield kicked 4, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're Geelong, pardon me, do you play Dangerfield forward or do you play him in the midfield?
I think it all depends on how the game's going. I think going into Saturday night, I think they will start him up forward. A bit, and then that'll just depend on how the first quarter goes. If they're on a run, I think the most important thing for them next week, and in a couple of days' times, and we'll talk about that, is they got to make sure they don't do what Collingwood did, celebrate a big win. They need to come out and play as if it's a brand new game, brand new opposition, because, Brisbane are arguably the second best team in the comp, or right up there. And, they're probably favourites against Geelong at this stage. I haven't checked the bookies. I haven't got in touch with your cousin.
Yeah, I think Brisbane, because they are premiership favourites, so you'd logically think that they are favourites to beat Geelong.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Does that lead us into something that you wanted to bring up?
Is that from the TAB bookies?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so this is your segment. Can't be doing that, and you can follow on after me. So I can't be doing that. And I heard this on the radio, I think it was either Monday or Tuesday. And the old man actually also picked it out. He actually picked it out first. And so I've got the photos from whenever day I screenshotted it from TAB. I'll be able to tell you when it was. So Tuesday. So the premiership market with the final 4 remaining teams: Brisbane $3.40, Richmond $3.80, Port Adelaide $4, Geelong $4.25. Now, the head-to-head for each game: Port Adelaide $1.85 to Richmond $1.95. So TAB, I think there needs to be a bit of common sense. How can Richmond be favourites ahead of Port Adelaide if you don't even have Richmond as favourites ahead of Port Adelaide in the game? Like, you can't be doing that, And I know yourself, like me, we all thrive for common sense. We believe that common sense always prevails. But in this, the bookies, they've got this completely wrong, because I don't see how you can have Richmond favourites to win the premiership, but aren't favourites to win the game to get into the grand final to win the premiership.
Yeah, that's it. I reckon if, there'd be some way to make some money out of that. I haven't done the thinking behind it.
We'll have to consult our cousin, our expert gambling cousin, about that.
Yeah, counting cards, Costa. So now I want to go to my part. And you know me, and everyone that knows me knows diehard St Kilda fan. Strength through loyalty, till the day I die kind of stuff.
What's that in Latin?
Fortius quo fidelius. Everything Lovely. About it. Let's, Beautiful. Name it out. You name it. But my "you can't be doing this" is aimed at the St Kilda Football Club this week. So I think it was Monday night, they had the Trevor Barker medal, their best and fairest, which Jack Steele came out on top quite convincingly. At one part, they had one of their trainers come in and just give a speech, completely open to members via a video link for anyone to watch. And what he's done here is he's had a dig at former St Kilda player, now dog, Josh Bruce. So I'll bring up the transcript. It says something along the lines of, "You get the guy who does 5 100-meter efforts in a row, and instead of grabbing the first water bottle out of the hands of the nearest trainer, will wait patiently until everyone else has had a drink, and then they'll have a drink. They won't just grab it, take a drink, drench their head, and then chuck it under their arm for no one else to have a crack, which some players do," not mentioning Josh Bruce. Now, I will state, I do not have all of the knowledge that I'd like. Context is important here. Perhaps they're, quite close, and they've remained quite close while they're at different clubs. But if they're not, and they're merely just acquaintances these days, I think that's pretty poor form to have a dig at, a player that wanted to stay at the club originally and kind of got shoved out the door to make way for other players. I just think that that's poor form, and you can't be doing that.
Well, in my opinion, it's only saying blunt on it, but there's not much to really, debate about that. Josh Bruce might be a thirsty fella.
That's it. And, I don't really know how you can try and insult blokes that are running 3Ks in, 6-7 minutes and all that. It doesn't make much sense to me how you can have a go at someone
if you're thirsty, you're bloody thirsty. So,
yeah.
I think, that's a real big turn it up on that bloke that,
Yeah, so
Come on, mate. You
hopefully
can't be doing that.
there's some circumstances behind it that make it more allowable. But if not, you can't be doing that, and that's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, if that's not a cheeky dig, then that's pretty piss poor from my view.
All right, so we've got the preliminary finals starting tomorrow night. We've got your mob up against Tyler's mob. That is Port Adelaide versus Richmond. What's important for the Tigers here to get the win tomorrow and make it into their third grand final in 4 years?
Richmond just need to be clean around the contest, stick their tackles, clean with disposal, and just discipline. Don't do stupid stuff. Don't give away unnecessary 50s or unnecessary free kicks. Go out there, play professional, clean with the ball, good hard tackles that stick, and that'll win them the game.
Do you believe that the Adelaide crowd will have a significant influence on the game, or do you feel like your blokes are experienced and mature enough to kind of overlook that?
Well, Richmond are very well accustomed to playing in front of big crowds. Whether that's the crowds are generally in their favour or not, I don't know, because, grand finals, you can see that it's generally around a 50-50 sort of mark. Obviously, the Collingwood crowd, really loud in a prelim a couple of years ago. And, yeah, I think, and obviously having the experience of the qualifying final against Brisbane twice, I think it will have a factor, but whether that's a factor big enough, which is my key for Port Adelaide, is they have to get the crowd involved. Port Adelaide, they can't afford to give up the first 2 goals of the game. I think they have to go out and kick the first goal or kick the first 2, or at least, the first 3 out of 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
So they have to get that crowd up and about, or else, if vice versa, Richmond kick the first 2 or kick the first 3 out of 4, then the crowd's going to be quite out of it unless Port, really claw their way back in.
Yeah. So the team list came out about an hour ago. No changes by either side. So how do you feel that Nankervis, he's he's going to have the majority of the ruck duties. How do you feel like he'll be able to go up against 2 ruckmen in Scott Lycett and Peter Adams?
Yeah, look, I think, sorry to say, but I thought last week was Nankervis' probably best performance for the year.
He did I thought that he was dominant.
He played very well.
Yeah, I thought that he was dominant over Marshall.
And he did play quite well against West Coast. So yeah, I think Nankervis will play. He'll play a lot of ruck, but there are other options, obviously, with Bolter or Asprey, probably whoever's feeling up to it, and maybe whoever's playing a better game. If Bolter's really struggling down in defence, he might push up and do a bit of a ruck roll, or vice versa. Asprey's struggling. And this is the thing that I think that's going to be really thrilling about this game, is that Charlie Dixon had a real cracker in the first quarter, but is he going to get let off the hook now with Asprey now back? And we know what Asprey is like as just as a genuine one-on-one defender. He doesn't allow you to run rings around him or take easy marks. So I think that might allow Bolter to free up and maybe grab some intercepts.
So you're certain that Asprey will go to Dixon, or is that just how you'd have it? Do you think they'll put Bolter on him, or?
I say Bolter is another Alex Rance, in my opinion, the role that he plays. He reads the ball quite well. He's very good in the air, very agile around the ground. So I think if you have someone like a good lockdown defender like Asprey on Dixon, then Bolter, that makes Bolter's life easy coming in intercept, and then vice versa, with Bolter coming in to intercept makes Asprey's life a bit easier, knowing that Bolter's going to come and cover.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think that it's going to be an absolute cracking contest. I'll be really interested to see when you think about, and the game that they played earlier this season, Richmond had quite a number of outs, and it was still quite an enthralling game up until that last quarter.
I think Port still had a few out as well from memory.
Yeah,
but
I do remember them.
Richmond did have a lot more key outs, I think, than what Port did. So it will be quite an enthralling game.
Yeah, so you think the two different game styles, obviously Richmond huge on trying to allow turnovers, whereas Port Adelaide really tries to get their job done in the middle and in the clearance and contested balls. So tip time. Now, we both got one last week, and through the margins that we've had, it is extremely tight. So we're both locked on 3, and the current margin deficit I have at 159 and you are 163. So there's 4 points separating us at the moment. Who have you picked for tomorrow night's game, and by how much?
Well, I got a message from Tyler today. He's very keen for Friday night. And I said I would be too, knowing that my team's going to walk into a grand final.
Oh,
I think Port Adelaide will win by 12 points.
Wow. Yeah. I was going to be interested to see whether you'd go that more optimistic approaches rather than a realism, but it seemed fit that we've had such a tight battle in all of the tipping this year. I get it. You want to stay close. You don't want to throw a tip away like I did last week. So that's fair enough.
Yeah, no, I think the home ground advantage will probably just, be that sort of 2-goal margin. I mean, you play it in a neutral venue. I think probably Richmond are the better side. But I think that home crowd from Port Adelaide will be quite huge. And Port Adelaide play Adelaide Oval, very well. It's why it's called the Portress.
I just can't wait to blurt out some in excess tomorrow and all that. I'm going to go Port Adelaide by 10. So once again, I'd be preferring if Richmond won, just based on, people surround us, work and family and all that. But, I think that for whatever reason, I've continued to kind of push Port Adelaide off to the side this year. So, and they've been in first place this whole season. So I can't really see any reason why it would stop now when they've got everything falling into their lap in terms of home ground and all that. So be a great game though, nonetheless, hopefully.
I just want to drop a quick gag. So we know obviously throughout the early 2000s and throughout probably later on that Port quite known for choking in finals.
Yeah. I think it's infamous Choco 04 celebration.
And I think it seems quite fitting that they actually play an In Excess song at the start of their games. Boom, boom. That's a nice little gag there.
Jeez, you better hope that this bloody podcast never makes it onto the other side of that border, mate. You'll be a wanted man over there.
The PC police are going to be out for us.
It's all right. City of Churches over there, they're nothing but God's children.
I think that's all the wine drinkers at the Courthouse Football Club, Adelaide Crows, founded in a courthouse. But good on Port Adelaide. They could be looking to win a premiership in their 23rd year.
Geez, okay. Well, before we get a bloody price on your head, I think that we should move to the other preliminary final.
Yeah, just a hint. It's not 150. It's 23 years. There, I said it.
Boy, I reckon you could have one of our 8 listeners starting to crack it on there. You and Tyler might not make it to the full-time siren tomorrow night.
I highly doubt it.
I can imagine all the flogging.
Get quite aggressive. He can get quite aggressive.
All right, Saturday night at the Gabba. Actually, before we start that, I just want your take on the turf being delivered from the MCG to the Gabba. What's your take on that?
I know we don't condone profanity on this, but I think it's a load of shit.
Yeah.
I think, what's the bloody point? The AFL seem to be saying that they're struggling financially. They've had to sack employees. Somehow they can deliver, a goal square's worth of turf up to the Gabba. Yeah, that's a real can't be doing that moment as well.
Yeah, that is.
That's not good, not good.
No, it's spot on. I mean, really, like you think the cost associated with sending a bloke up in a bloody truck to deliver a slab of grass over to the stadium just for some kind of, it's not even a physical advantage. It's just some kind
Oh,
of,
it's just for a niche. It's just for a
yeah,
niche.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
You know, it's to,
that's
I think it puts quite a bad image on, you know, how other states would view like the Victorians for as well. Something along the lines of, oh, they've always got to be a part of it, you know, even though we've been able to save their whole season and all that. I just think that there's no need for it really.
yeah, the Victorian team should just worry about making the grand final maybe, and then
That's
that's where Victoria will have their mark.
That's right. And Geelong's going to have their work cut out for them, seeming they're playing Brisbane at home. Have you got any key takes on this game?
Brisbane need to play 4 quarters. I think you can't really sleep against Geelong. Geelong's such a professional outfit. They, have superstars everywhere along the ground, forward, midfield, and defence. You can't really go to sleep against Geelong. For Brisbane, for Geelong, they just need to be in the game at 3/4 time. I think if they're within a goal at 3/4 time, I think they'll back themselves in. The good clearance power they have. They've been generally quite a solid defence over the last few years. But this is where they really need to. We haven't seen it from Geelong. From the last few prelims and knockout finals, is that real urgency and desperation, and I think this is the perfect time to do it. Playing Brisbane at the Gabba, home crowd advantage for Brisbane. This is where Geelong can really, put that whole finals under Chris Scott to bed if they can win this one.
Yeah. Similar to what I said earlier on, I think that Geelong needs to, start fresh and almost completely forget about what happened last week, completely different game and all that. I think that it's going to be an incredibly difficult task, although in saying that, I feel that if any team is going to be able to do it, then it'll be Geelong, but they're going to have to play their best football. I think that's the only way that Geelong will get the job done. We saw it earlier on in the season, although it was at the SCG, I believe. They managed to have a 7-goal unanswered quarter. And they just did that solely through domination in the midfield. So it'll be interesting to see if they decide to get Dangerfield in the midfield, really try and just overload them in that part of the ground.
Yeah, I think also Brisbane have to come in not too over their heads. Like they knocked off Richmond, who we debate is probably the best side in the comp. Brisbane can't really come in too big-headed. If they come in too big-headed and sort of like what Collingwood did, thinking that it might just happen for them.
Mm-hmm.
And we know what Geelong are capable of, that, Geelong just outwork Brisbane.
That's it. Well, it's my genuine belief that if you had every single team playing in their best form, I think that Richmond's game style is the best that, to be adopted in a final sense. But I think when you put all the teams together, Geelong plays the best football. And when they're playing,
Geelong when they're on, they're the best. Yeah. Yes, I agree with that.
Unfortunately, I don't think they'll be able to get the job done, considering Brisbane hasn't lost at the Gabba this year, and just based on the way.
Neither has Geelong though. Geelong have not lost to the Gabba either.
Yeah, that is true. And look, they've had some, Brisbane have had some closer games up there. But look, I'm going to tip Brisbane by 7 points.
Yeah, you've read my mind, Jay. I think Brisbane might actually do this a bit easier. I think Brisbane will win by 26 points. Ooh. I think if that crowd really gets involved and like we saw last time in Brisbane, if the boys in yellow seem to swing towards one more wing than the other, I think this is Gill's master plan that they want Brisbane in the grand final. So I think Brisbane will be playing in the grand final because that's the AFL's master plan. They want Brisbane in the grand final. They want a Queensland team in the grand final for their Queensland grand final. Brisbane will be playing in the grand final.
Right. Has he got any other master strokes up his sleeve for the Port Adelaide Richmond game or?
No. Actually, I saw a few funny things though about how St Kilda, your mob seemed to bag Gill a lot,
I did see this. This is the thing
and
you
and
tagged me in.
and funnily enough, who does Gil McLaughlin actually support?
Well, I see this. I didn't know this until about 2 weeks ago, but he's a St Kilda
St
fan.
Kilda supporter.
Yeah.
He's a St Kilda supporter. So
Yeah.
you can't you can't be doing that. There is.
Look,
I think he does a pretty good job of not being biased. But yeah, you
look,
can't
I
be
think he
saying
does
that, you
it.
can't be saying that Gil has it out for St Kilda because
Nah.
I think if he's going to have any ties, I think strength
that's
through loyalty
it.
will overcome.
That's it. Strength through loyalty all the time, baby. No, yeah, I think both of them line up. I can't really remember a time where you've had kind of the four teams up top being, any of them can really win it on their day. Normally you go into one, similar to the Richmond St Kilda game last week where you've got a clear favourite. There's no clear favourite here, and I can't really remember the last time.
This is really enthralling. We can't really remember where the both prelims have been really clear cut on who's going to win. Obviously, last year Richmond Geelong was going to be always quite close. Last year we thought Collingwood were going to get the job done against GWS.
Yeah, we thought that was going to be a convincing Geelong win.
2018 we thought Richmond would beat Collingwood, and we thought that West Coast would beat Melbourne. And then 2017 Richmond probably over GWS. Adelaide were going to flog Geelong. Adelaide flogged Geelong. So generally there's always been that one sort of clear prelim where you think, and it's generally the team that finishes on top. There you go. Yeah, they'll win this. They've been the best team all year. But yeah, it's really hard to decide these two. I think Richmond Port's a lot harder to decide than Brisbane Geelong, in my opinion. But yeah, both close games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that leaves
also, I've got for you. So we discussed this. So I suppose we'll do it for both games, and we might do a poll on it for each respective game. Who's most under the pump for each game from you, and why?
Okay, so for the Port Adelaide-Richmond game, I think the Port Adelaide's most under the pump. I think that you could make a valid argument to why Richmond's under the pump. They've gone.
I think every team their own respects under the pump.
That's exactly right. So I think Port Adelaide's more under the pump because they've been the best team all season. They've been first place. They're playing at home, and look, I may as well speak. I think that Brisbane's more under the pump than Geelong as well. And that's purely down to the home side. Haven't lost since final series last year. They, I think they played their best footy of the season against Richmond 2 weeks ago. So I think everything leads to those two teams to be playing in a grand final. That doesn't necessarily mean that Richmond and Geelong are going to come in with that underdog kind of motivation where they have nothing to lose. But I think that Richmond and Port Adelaide just have more to lose.
Brisbane and Port Adelaide.
Sorry, Brisbane, yeah.
Yeah, look, I'll agree with you on Port Adelaide. I think, when you're the benchmark team all year, obviously you're the one that everyone looks at throughout the year. And obviously having a home final, probably the best home ground advantage they can nearly have in the AFL this year. So, I think Port's more under the pump. I think, we know what they're capable of. They've got to deliver. For mine in the Brisbane-Geelong game, I've gone with a different method. I've gone with Geelong under the pump. Most under the pump, just because of the fact of their, we know what they're like in prelims, and they haven't been able to get, that climb that next hurdle. And I still don't think this Brisbane side's fantastic. I still think out of the top four sides that they're probably fourth, in my opinion. Obviously they beat Richmond, but I think, Geelong on paper are a better side than this Brisbane side. And I think they'd be more under the pump because, if they don't, if they crash out in another prelim, well, how many years has that been now? They've crashed out in a prelim semi-final.
And that's something that we'll talk about in ongoing episodes, regardless of what eventuates, is that there will be huge question marks around the Geelong camp about how, if they do not win the premiership this year, about where to next year. There's been whispers and trade rumours regarding Jeremy Cameron. But there will be serious question marks, with an aging list and a coach that hasn't been able to get them to win the final dance, other than in his
I mean, he
first year.
he did inherit a very good team, though. I think you're right. Could have coached that team to a premiership.
Yeah, so big question marks will be asked in the Geelong camp if there is no win either on Saturday night or next Saturday night.
Yeah.
All right. Have you also got a quick tip for our loyal listeners at home for the NRL Grand Final? Who's going to make it into that?
Yeah. So NRL Grand Final. So I actually picked both of them right. If you can recall back,
okay.
I actually picked both of them right.
I think you did.
Yeah.
I remember you picking the Bunnies.
I always said whoever won out of the Bunnies and the Knights would be playing in a prelim. I thought Canberra didn't come out of against the Sharks. They didn't come out of really third gear, and I thought, they could have the potential to beat the Roosters. Even though I think the Roosters are probably nearly the best team all year, they just didn't put it together on the night. So I'll be going. I'm going to be going to Penrith Raiders Grand Final, I think, for mine. So I think Penrith will get the job against South Sydney. Penrith being the benchmark team all year. Nathan Cleary's an absolute superstar. And Canberra, Jack Whiten's starting to come up to the plate. And, a lot of other players like Bateman and Williams, Papali are really starting to play really well for Canberra. So I think, unless, Pappenhausen pulls his finger out I don't even know if Munster's playing or not.
Yeah, I haven't heard either, but it really seems like
I know he trained. I know he trained, but I don't know how fit he was. But I think, and Canberra have generally had the wood over Melbourne of late as well.
Seems that Canberra seem to gel at the right time of the year, which is what you want. I'm going to go different. I think that I think that Penrith will make it through. I think that the Rabbitohs are just too inconsistent. We've seen it in both their finals.
They have been the high scoring team. They've been the high scoring team though in finals, I think, this year.
Yeah.
But they are pretty terrible in defense though. They do concede a lot, but they generally score a lot. They generally do concede a lot.
Yeah, I think Penrith will get the job done. I think they'll be playing the Storm. And
then who wins that? Who wins that?
Jeez. Look, you'd probably have to go with Penrith. They've been the team to beat this season. They've been clear favourites. I think they definitely beat the Storm once. They might have even beat them twice. Perhaps.
Yeah, I think I don't know why, but I'm on the green machine. I think the green machine might go all the way this year. I think there's a lot of
that Canberra milk, mate.
There's I've been drinking a lot of Dare. But I think there is a lot of fire in the belly, and I think especially last week over getting over the Roosters, I think they probably genuinely believe now, and I think there's still fire in the belly from last year. But we'll end on an AFL note. A bit of Ned's Nuggets of knowledge. So this is to put Tyler's Port Adelaide mob under the pump. So Ned's Nuggets of knowledge. Port Adelaide could be the first minor premiers since 2017 to make the grand final, provided they win. Only 3 times, though, in the 2010s has the minor premier winners missed out on a grand final, that being Fremantle 2015, Richmond 2018, and Geelong 2019.
Jeez. Well, there you go. So, another reason why we say that the pressure's on Port to get the job done tomorrow. It's going to be an excellent weekend of finals, hopefully. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavours tomorrow night and watching. I hope for your sake that the Tigers get up. And, we'll see how it goes. So thanks for joining us again, Ned, and thanks to everyone that's listening. We really enjoy your support. So thank you, and see you later.
Thank you very much. See you.